Hypothetically Intentional, where we ask the question, what if we set intentions with everything we do? My name is Michelle. I'm your co-host, and today we have a special guest, Adam Latin, with us today. I'm really excited. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you.
People are in for a treat when Adam's in the room. Who knows where we're going to go? Would you like to set the intention before we get started?
Yes. So I really have been working with myself and clients around the concept of grace. And so I want to set the intention that we allow ourselves grace, which to me I define as recognizing our humanity, recognizing that we're supposed to be imperfect and we're always supposed to be in a place of learning rather than knowing. And that we also offer grace to people who have permanent limitations, that we recognize that not everyone can grow, and to also offer grace for people's inability to expand or wherever their limits are. So within those of us that are trying to grow, and then also acknowledging and celebrating those that can't.
Beautiful.
So that is where I want our intention to be today.
Do you know what I love about like that whole thing is because I also know like how you show up and one of your main, like what you're really good at is like you said grace and then you defined grace for clarity. And
Yeah.
I was like, yay.
Yeah.
There will be no question. We'll understand what Adam is talking about and what it
Yeah.
means to him.
And what it means to me and what I believe people should hold in their heart when they hear me speak about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Oh gosh, we can just dive right in because, well, I love what you said about because what I heard there was getting rid of that whole perfectionism bullcrap that like that's just a bunch of bullshit. People,
Yep.
have it and we're hard on ourselves if we're not achieving A, B, or C because we're comparing ourselves to someone who is supposed to achieve A, B, or C. Maybe not supposed to, could, is invited to. And that, but then there's other people where they think because, let's say their sibling did it, they're supposed to do it too. And I love that. And then the flip side of that for me is I have clients who get stuck in that voice of maybe I can't is the way to say it. But then my intuition is saying, well, not yet, but it's coming. But there's steps that have to happen first or could happen first that do make it possible. So it's not a forever limitation in this particular case, but it is a limitation right now. And so I think that's like such a slippery slope of, when are we keeping ourselves stuck in the words of I can't and limitation? And then also when are we keeping ourselves stuck in self abuse? I'm going to use that word because we're telling ourselves we should, but we literally can't.
And so, yeah, I definitely agree with that. What I also want to mention is a lot of times, if we within ourselves say, I want to, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But it's when we say that we believe other people can, that we need to really watch that. Like for me,
100%.
that's one of my soapboxes is that I really want people to understand how ridiculous it is to judge someone else's ability, whether it's they can or they can't, on either direction. Both methods are equally destructive.
Yeah.
Okay, that when you say to someone they can when they know they can't, it's as equally dismissive as saying to someone they can't when they can.
Yeah, and to be clear, what the instance that I was talking about is like, you get the clients who come in and say, I really want to do this thing, but I just can't. It's like, well, hang on, let's break this down then. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out what this looks like in the now, and let's be realistic about today, and then let's see where we go and leave it open versus like this demand.
And I think that as well, a piece of that often is they're looking at the whole picture and they know they can do 75% and they haven't figured out how to farm out the other 25% because they are always thinking solely I when they're talking a creation. And I'm very big on, well, who are the people that qualify as we
Yeah.
that might be able to turn the I into a we?
Yeah, I love taking the M of the me and flipping it up to a W and making it a we. I'm all about
Wow, I've
that.
never heard that, but I love that. That
Yeah.
is phenomenal. I've never heard it said that way before, but I'm definitely going to steal that. You
Yeah.
have no compunction about that.
Yeah.
Like
Well, I think
turning the yeah, flipping it up and making me a we. Yeah, that's
yeah.
really great.
It's
That's
huge.
phenomenal.
And I think so many people are so afraid to ask for help, or they think they're supposed to do it alone, or they've been so wounded in quote unquote help that they've just shut it all down. And I mean, there's so many different ways, but I just think like I don't think we're supposed to do this life alone. I think everything about this human experience is I mean, I so here it's weird because it's like I feel like I have to teach people to go within first and like honor themselves and listen to
Right.
what they're saying. But then after that, it's like, yeah, and then invite the we because the we is where it's at. That's how we like expand at a level that you can't do it by yourself.
Right. And I really go back to nature. How much in nature are being truly in isolation, whether it's plants,
Mm,
animals, everything. We the universe teaches us community everywhere we look.
yeah.
And so I'm definitely a big fan of that. I think one of the greatest wounds that we have is we are taught to look for genetics and love as a way as the avenue where we should be receiving active support.
Mm,
And for me, that's the biggest challenge is teaching people, well, why would you assume someone who cares about you has any of the skills or techniques to create the support you're looking for? Like, where have you seen it evidenced that because someone has love, they have awareness and skill to help you create what you're looking for? So I really say to people, well, who did you ask for help when you never received it? Was it people who that arena you were asking for support in was easy for them? Or were you asking for support in arenas where someone purported to love you, care about you, and want you to succeed?
yeah. Yeah. You have me like so that so that whole thing is like a wound that was uncovered for me, oh gosh, maybe a year and a half ago, where I realized I have like really strong expectations of where I think said support or love should be coming from, should be, right? But then realizing that like that they don't have the capacity or it's not in their wheelhouse to actually to give me what is needed in any given moment, but because society, family, friends, or others have said it must be that A, B, or C should support you in this way. And I just lock into that, like, yeah, they should. And I don't have that boo hoo. It's like, and I don't feel that way anymore, but I had to catch myself in that. And it was a practitioner. I was in a healing session and he like called me out on it. And I was like, dang, that's powerful. Because if
Yeah.
I can see people, for who they are and where they're at and what they're able to give, and then decide where that fits or how that fits for me, if at all, that's, like, way more powerful and, like, peaceful, I guess, is how it feels to me, than trying to tuck something into a lane that doesn't they don't belong in.
And I think that it's important to know that those people that love us can still participate by celebrating what we've achieved,
Mm.
even if they can't produce the actual path to the achievement. And so
Yeah.
that's what I tell people is that it doesn't mean that someone who cares about you can't participate in your life. You just have to transform it to the after instead of the before.
Mhm.
Once you've achieved something, someone can't disrupt it. It's safe.
Yeah.
So you can then express what you've achieved and allow people the opportunity to participate by celebrating what you've accomplished. And that still creates that ability to build that connection and make the person feel a part of your life. It's
Yeah.
just oftentimes, if we have unexpert advice, it is either useless or in a lot of cases actually destructive to the techniques we need to use.
Mm.
So we really have to guard our path and our blueprints very sacredly and very separately until we know someone has the skill and awareness, or they're just not going to offer information that's going to be distracting or disruptive.
Yeah. So do you work with people on that specifically, like getting to know
Yes,
and
absolutely.
understand like who the people in their life are and how they're serving them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a connection and communication coach. So
Yeah.
that is my primary goal when I work with clients is I help them navigate more accurately what their expectations are
Mhm.
and what they receive as an obligation that may even be unspoken, because they may believe someone expects them, and what they're really doing is creating an internal obligation without discussing it with the other person first.
Which
So,
is so human nature. Like so
right.
many people do that.
I was going to say there's this phenomenal woman that talks about having been in a healthier relationship. She's a TikTok person, and I just love her stuff. I wish I could remember the name off the top of my head, but she does these skits where she's talking to her current like partner or person, and will say, well, what do you mean I can't do A, B, C, and D without your permission, or even with your permission I'm not allowed to do these various things? And the partner's like, what do you mean? We never discussed that. We never talked about that. That was never a
Mhm.
thing. And she like looks at him like she makes the whole skit of like she's realizing how controlled she was by
Mm.
this other person, by these rules, and that truly believed that everyone functioned under these beliefs and under these
Yeah.
ideas. And so that's what makes it really challenging, is we're not taught to question those things. When I work with a client, that's the first thing I do, is I ask a lot of questions.
Yeah. I work
Okay.
that way too. I think that's one of the reasons we get along so well.
Well, it's because we realize how much bad code a person may have.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a lot of the, we work in somewhat different ways, but we have the gift of really rewriting that code.
Mhm.
And that's something I celebrate when I meet someone else who has that similar gift.
Yeah.
And so for me, my method is I'm louder than the bad code. That's my personal gift, is I'm actually, my voice is louder, my conviction is louder, my belief in someone is louder.
Yeah.
And so that helps them. They have that voice that sort of overlays and becomes louder, that helps people ask questions.
Mhm.
And like they'll be in a feeling, they'll be in a moment, and all of a sudden they say they'll hear my voice going, well, is that true?
Yeah.
I know you're feeling it, and I acknowledge, and I need you to acknowledge and recognize the validity of what you're feeling, the volume of what you're experiencing.
Mhm.
And that's the thing, is people don't realize how much. And I was actually working with a client about 3 days ago with her and her significant other. It's really a situation where I it was her and her partner. And her partner really had no idea how much she was minimizing her expression of the volume of what she was experiencing, the
Mm.
volume of betrayal, the volume of not being heard. Everything was like, and I had to really go through and lead him through this understanding. And then I would catch him making a statement where he was defending like another statement he made by doing the same thing and minimizing it again. He didn't realize it.
Yeah.
Like he was basically saying, like, but you should be able to gain a handle. No, you can't get a handle because it's too loud. Like it's just the reaction, the PTSD response she was having,
Hmm.
the trauma response she was having was too loud for her to be able to navigate um the circumstance and situation differently than she was. And she wasn't choosing to operate the way that she did.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's such powerful work. And I love what you said about like I'm louder because like your energy, your conviction, like it's true. It's like
Right.
there's not a question when you have a conversation with you. Like it's very clear and it's very there's no hesitation or wishy-washiness. It is. It's like it is. And I love that. I think it's I think more people, or maybe that's not the way I want to say it. I think people in general seek that out because it's rare. Um or at least it's rare when it's done. This is my feeling. It might not be true for everyone, but it's rare to be done from a place of love and healing versus a place of like stubbornness and judgment for
Right.
and so I think that's the special piece about being a catalyst for healing, in the work that we do is I don't know, there's something about holding the space and offering that conviction and that clarity and that possibility of support that like I
Yeah.
feel like I was a person that didn't feel a lot of support, but also I didn't allow a lot of support. So there was a lot of, things to navigate out of that for me to drop into a place where now I can hold that space for other people.
And the thing I really frequently go back to is who the hell would have taught you to do that?
Right.
Like we have generations of poor role modeling going back at least two or three or more generations.
Yeah.
And like we need to acknowledge that accurately. Like where were our role models
Yeah.
in learning how to create a community?
Gosh, now you have me wondering who like so like I think about you say role model and I'm like I'm so grateful I found Tanya. Like she was the one that
Right.
like taught me and got me to a place where I was like, "Oh my gosh, it doesn't have to be this way. I don't have to be coping all the
Right.
time. I can actually be thriving and like actively choosing my life." What? Who was that for you? I mean, do you have several or
I have well over 100 people. Like I
yeah.
I only work with mentors. Like my brain will not absorb information that I read. It doesn't come to me that way.
Yeah.
All my information comes from people I meet. So I'll meet a random person on the street and take a piece from what they have to say. And to me, that's that. But I think biggest was when I started like apprenticing under various holistic healers.
Hmm.
So there were a lot of people that I previously worked with. Um, I mean, uh, I I had a palmistry teacher that taught me, and she'd been studying palmistry since 1968, and
Hmm.
I'd been friends with her I um before I took palmistry classes, and so she was a really big mentor.
Yeah.
Um, I have a friend, sadly, who passed with a few months ago. Who was literally my. She taught me how to be a better mothering energy. She was kind of my adoptive mother. At one point, she even let me crash at her home for a little while.
Mm.
And she taught me different spiritual techniques and different ways to think of things. And we'd have discussions and I'd learned. But like I volunteered in a nursing home when I was 15 years old till I was 17. I learned there. I For me, um luckily, I mean honestly, even in books that I read, there was like I used to read a lot of sci-fi fantasy. And so it wasn't like I was trying to study specific information. It was I was living the characters. And I would
Mm,
learn things from the way the characters communicated with one another. It's one of the things that amazes me most about writers. Like I'm not a writer. Yes, I technically have a book and I had somebody support me in building that book, but I don't consider myself a storyteller in terms of like the written language, having different characters. I share lessons, and in that way I'm a storyteller. I use
mhm.
metaphors as a storyteller, and I'm amazing at the various metaphors. But I guess I'm just for me, I have had so many amazing teachers, and I continue to find more.
Yeah. Oh, me too, without a doubt. There was something about Tanya, that the door that was opened on a different level that I don't think without her I would have explored. And I'm sure that's not true, but I definitely feel
Well,
like she
maybe.
opened a
I mean,
door for
honestly,
me.
I believe it may be.
Yeah, yeah.
There are just some people that are the only key to the lock.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I don't want to ever diminish that space that they held,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So I like there are certain people that I met that I honor as that key and
Mm.
potentially the only key that I could have received.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'd like to think that even if I hadn't met Tanya, there would have been somebody else that would have done it for me, but certainly not the way that she did it. Not in the same way. Um, yeah, it's such a fascinating journey. I love that you said like you've had hundreds and that you learned from everyone, because I feel that way too. I definitely feel like um
And I should have been more specific. I think I said I can potentially learn from anyone,
mhm,
but also very careful of who I invest in learning from.
uh
There are some people who hear that message and try and learn from people that are a complete waste of their time.
yeah.
And so I always like to sort of qualify that with make sure that you're engaging with people that are valuable enough resource for you.
Yeah.
Because time is precious. And
Oh,
so don't try and learn from every single person
right. How do
because
you walk people
that
through that? People who've never really explored that. Do you
right.
give them tools to
Yeah, I do. We talk about how to qualify people,
mm,
how to learn to qualify, not just um a lot of people do what I call follow the maybes. And that's very difficult. That's not the right method. Okay. I always tell people think about when you're communicating with someone. Does it feel like you're sharing and you're in reciprocal sharing? Or is one or the both trying to convince?
oh yeah.
And so that's a piece. But I also think that speed is important. If they're not immediately a hell yes, then it's okay to say that they're a hell no.
Yeah.
Because again, like I think it's because I'm a math person and I'm a numbers person. I kind of say to people, I may potentially give people 4 minutes, but I won't give them five unless I'm sure that they're worthy of it.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, like, I'll pick up the phone for anyone and I may give them 4 minutes, but after that, it's like that may be all I have. And I
Yeah.
try to make that clear before I pick up the phone with someone. Hey, I only have this amount of time versus that. If it's someone that I know, I just don't have the resources for right now,
Yeah.
forever,
Sure.
potentially.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So, in working with clients today, like right now, are you seeing like an underlying message that you think would be helpful to people listening? I don't know. I feel like it kind of ebbs and
So
flows.
I I always have a really important message, and I it never to me this message never ebbs and flows. This message is learn what makes you feel cherished and learn how to ask the people that you want to earn what makes them feel cherished. Have that conversation. Part of my mission is to bring that word back into frequent use, because
Yeah, nobody uses it.
nobody uses it. So it's a really good word to use to help support connection, because it's not misused. It's
Right,
just
and it
an
feels like
absence
a
of use.
hug. When you
Right.
use that word, I'm like, "Oh, I just got a little hug. That's so nice."
Yeah, exactly, because that's one of the ways that you may connect.
Yeah.
And so really having that conversation, really understanding how to, like, know that you may not know. And that's where the grace I was talking about earlier needs to come in. We have to give ourselves grace to remind ourselves you may never have had anyone teach you about being cherished or ask you that question. I've had a laundry list of clients where I will ask them that question, even if I have previously asked them that question. They still don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
They haven't explored enough. And there is a discovery and an exploration, and also a potential shifting and changing that can happen.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I understand that the underlying, like, goal of how you show up and how you work with people doesn't ebb and flow, but I feel like the obstacles for people does. It can.
Well, I mean, I think everyone has completely unique obstacles. So I don't even know if they always go like, yeah, occasionally sometimes there's planetary vibrations and things like that that affect how much we can receive. But in
Yeah.
a lot of cases, the patterning is that it's someone else's individual path to work with those things. Sometimes I'll get like a grouping of clients,
Yeah.
but I'll also have completely random growth in that direction.
Yeah, and I feel like even within the grouping of clients, like let's say there's an underlying, let's just say fear is really loud on any given day with a group of clients. How that
Yeah,
shows up with each individual client is completely different.
right.
And also, you can start somewhere knowing that like the blanket sort of overarching thing right now is fear, and then like to
Yep.
parcel it out individually with like you can kind of start as a group and then go individual with people because it will be different for every single person. How it shows up for
Right.
me is different than how it shows up for you. And
Exactly. I agree.
yeah.
In working with people, like, there are so many practitioners out there that are still applying a system, like a
Oh,
singular
versus like,
system.
yeah, versus going like, what's, I love that you said that, by the way. Go ahead, finish your thought. I have
Well,
a
I was just going
extra
to
thought with
say
that.
that it's one of the things that I find um, sort of most, it doesn't really identify the individuality. It's one of the things that I really appreciate about you as well, is I know you're not this system can apply to everyone.
Right.
And so, like, it breaks my heart when I have clients tell me that they worked with that person that applies a system to everything. And one of the factors of that is that when that system isn't working for that individual, that client is then treated as if they're not trying hard enough.
Mm.
The system practitioner creates shame and blame on the other person. Not always intentionally, but it's still present there. And I
Yeah.
think that's a discussion as practitioners we need to share with other people, because they may have even been the victim of it and not even realized that they felt bad about themselves and were made to feel like something was wrong with them because the system wasn't a match to them.
Yeah. Yeah, and what I was gonna say when I said I love that you said that, I have pockets of time, and I think it's when I'm in like my creativity just explodes and I have like all these ideas and I get really excited about it. But in those moments I have these pockets of time where I think, gosh, maybe I'm not structured enough. Maybe I should. I am. I have an outline, like I'm writing a book. I have my quote unquote structure, but my structure is different for every human because every human shows up differently. So, outsider looking in, it might feel less structured, but when I'm working with people one on one, I've never had a moment where they're like, this is too chaotic. I don't understand. It's more like we're dropped in. You just saw something that like you saw me in the moment right now as I am. No one's ever done that before. Not always. I'm not saying every single time it's like, oh, no one's ever done that. I don't mean that. I just mean like
Right.
I have moments where I think, gosh, maybe I should be more structured. And then I'm always like, Michelle, that is not who you are. Like you're organized and have like you're good. You're good with what you do and how you do it. Stop trying to let someone else dictate how you're supposed to show up because you just heard a thing where somebody was super organized and you're like, oh, I wish I was that organized.
And I hear that, but I really do think that that organization being too organized creates an inability to offer to all the various people that need to receive. Like, because then you're not leaving enough openness and flow.
Yeah, and I
And
feel like, even within a structure for, person A, we might
Mhm.
need to do step 5 before we do step 1 if you're doing it in numerical order. And then for another person, we might need to do step 10 and never bother with the first 9 because they're going a different direction. And I think that's really important to note. It's like, well, hang on. Yeah, I do think we get stuck in structure sometimes. We as a
Well,
humanity, not
we are
we as
taught that if it's not repeatable,
yeah.
it
Yeah.
has no value.
Yeah.
Not, oh, this person like um uh we're taught if it's not repeatable, it has no value. And so if it's not able to be analyzed from the outside and it can't be, you know, repeated by others,
Yeah.
then it must be something fake and made up. And so I look at how did that person experience it? At the end of the day, did the person experience the value they needed to continue pressing forward and being excited and invested in their life?
Yeah. How cool would it be if everyone was excited and invested in their life?
I don't have conversations like that
I know you don't.
because those conversations lead into people not allowing others to be where they're supposed to be.
Right. I know what you're saying.
And
And
so I just want,
also, I still, as an Aquarius who likes the we and loves the idea of people having happy hearts, I understand. Well, and the difference is, I understand that not everybody can have a happy heart all the time. I do get that. I understand that. And I'm not trying to tuck somebody there that isn't there right now and not
right.
meant to be. However, I also feel like it would be an amazing thing, totally utopia and like unachievable as humans. I get that. And still, I'm going to have a piece of me that thinks it would be amazing if everyone had that like true joy in their heart and could experience that. I love it.
And
But I do
I know
understand
that,
it's a dangerous conversation with the masses on some
yeah,
level
yeah, it
because
really
it
is
creates
because
comparison. It
it
creates
creates
comparison
comparison.
and like beating yourself up and all those things. And my thing is like, what if we can, what if we can learn to not have everything feel so heavy all the time? Because that's where I was.
And I think that some people are just live in a heavier place, and we need to be able to acknowledge what space is best for us to live in.
Yes, but so here's my thing. And without comparing. So let's say I started super heavy. My goal isn't to become like blissful and joyful all the time, but my goal is to be one step out of the heaviest that I am and to continue to step into a new and more joyful place for me, myself, and I, not comparing it to someone who has it just not as heavy.
Right.
Right? Like, I mean, as a
And
coach and
so
as a
I think
healer,
that's a
that's
great
it.
individual goal.
Yeah.
I'm, for me, I feel like we're always going to be in a position where we have an audience.
Sure.
Like we have an audience. Like as a healer, I feel like I have an audience. And I want to always make clear to my audience, yes, absolutely, whatever goal you want to have for you is
Yeah.
a beautiful thing.
Right.
But it's so dangerous to have a goal with someone else if they don't already have a clear communication to you that's their goal.
Correct.
Like if you've worked with someone and they want to receive the goal you're imagining for them, oh, you better believe I'm leaning into it 24/7.
Right.
Like
Well, and it's not even the goal I'm imagining for them. It's the goal they're imagining for themselves that I can feel.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's exactly right. And so I am completely there. But so many newer healers get so excited about their growth step that
Mm.
they want to transform everyone with
Yeah.
that same growth step.
Yeah.
And it actually puts them in a really dark place when they have to come to the conclusion that they can't, especially when some of these systems teach that they can.
Well, and that's a whole nother conversation about like if as a practitioner, your ego is that much in the way, that in and of itself is a problem. You can't want it for them. I say that all the time. It's like I can't want it for them. Like they need to want it for themselves, and me wanting it for them does no good. It serves no purpose, and it doesn't take them anywhere. Like opening them to what they do want. Like sometimes people don't know what they want and they need assistance
Right.
and support around that. That's one thing. But even that, you have to be really careful that you're not projecting your bullshit onto them, and what like you have to really drop in and listen to what they truly want and help them discover that for themselves versus you deciding what you think is best for them. Totally different. Like, right? Those are totally different
Right.
things.
And I think that a lot of that can be handled with questions.
Yeah, that's why I ask so many questions. The
Right.
number of people that go,
A
"You ask
lot of
really
that,
good questions." It's like, "Do I? Am I asking good questions or are you like
yes.
you're directing this,
No,
you know?"
no, you really are asking good questions. You're often going to be the trailblazer that
I
helps
love that
people
word.
see things people because I think it's different than being a leader. I really qualify differently trailblazer and leader as two very different things. Because a
Yeah.
trailblazer will burn the path because that's the definition of the word, but
Yep.
they're not concerned with who follows it. And then there are other people that really want to engage with the following. And sometimes that's great. Sometimes it's really necessary that people have a leader like that. But it's to me, it's the trailblazing that gets me excited. It's not the followers.
Trailblazing because it takes you somewhere new, trailblazing because it's
Because it takes
like
you somewhere new or through something that that you want to create.
mm,
Like we clear the brush with that fire. We clear what stands in the way so that if someone wants the opportunity to walk down it, they can, but we're not leading them.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
not trying to direct them. We're just saying, well, okay, you say this is what you're looking for. Here's the path. Here are the techniques you may need to use because whatever else you worked with doesn't work.
Yeah.
I constantly talk about the peace power dilemma with people because I work with so many clients when they first come to me, their message is, I just want peace, I just want peace, I just want peace.
Mm.
And I go, well, describe what peace is. And then when you listen back to what they're saying, they're not even asking for peace. They're asking for expansion, discovery, creativity, exploration, power, all these other things. But they're using the word peace because it's supposedly lack of conflict.
Mm. Yeah,
Okay.
that's interesting.
And what I
Mhm.
tell people is, well, maybe you're not supposed to have lack of conflict. Maybe you're supposed to just create and recognize you're more powerful than the conflict.
That's powerful.
Okay. Like maybe the reason you're judging yourself so much is because peace isn't an energy that you're supposed to be living in.
Mm,
And instead, you're supposed to be inspired and powerful and joyful. And those are very active words.
yeah.
And I personally think of peace as largely passive energy. It's
Yeah.
acceptance, it's allowing, it's like, it's those type of things. There are people that really need that passivity, but that's the other thing that I talk about is, are you living in a location where the vibration of peace is allowed and necessary and works within what's supposed to exist? So, like, I talk about the Northeast being the daycare center for the souls.
Mm.
Because everywhere else I've been, here in the Northeast, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York areas especially, we have the greatest percentage of adults that throw temper tantrums out of anywhere that I've ever met been in the entire world.
Really?
Okay. Yes, really. There there are like so many people here that are constantly throwing temper tantrums. Talk to anybody in retail here. Like it's so bad in this area and how frequent it is. And so I'm not saying it doesn't exist other places, but
Right.
it's concentrated more here. So there's actually more conflict that goes on day to day than somewhere else. Like when I was living in Peru, if you raised your voice, like that was like never, like
Mm.
nobody raises their voice in Peru. Yet here, it's the loudest person wins constantly.
So interesting.
And so I talk about locations having power, that
Sure,
locations
definitely vibes. Yeah.
allow that if you're trying to create a certain level or manifest a certain level of energy, you will be working against the vibration of the community and what all those collective souls need.
Mm.
And so if you're trying to create something that is in existence, yes, you potentially might be able to create it, but it's like swimming upstream versus swimming downstream.
Mm. With a few obstacles thrown in the way.
Well, that's what the swimming upstream is a
Yeah,
ton
but
of obstacles.
yeah, but you can swim upstream with like rocks and other things in the way as well and make it even harder.
Right. And that's what I mean. Like it's
Yeah.
all there.
Yeah, it's all just there
It's
in
all
your
there.
way.
Right. And then when you switch to a location, I've worked with clients on location assessment as well. You know, I have a really great intuition often around where someone might fit better.
Mm.
And it's someone's free will choice. I just help them understand where they potentially might fit. And I've had clients literally, we haven't done any other work other than discuss a different location. And their life changes simply from living in a different location
Because they chose to move.
because they chose to move.
Yeah.
I remember a
That's a
client that was
powerful.
completely
Yeah.
suicidal. She didn't want to live. She was so unhappy. She was living in Boston with 5 other people, and she was working as hard as she could, but the structure of everything she was dealing with wasn't working for her.
Mm.
I told her, like, I think it was Kansas or something like that. I don't know. It was definitely a Midwest state. And it so happened that that state had a branch of her job there.
Of
She
course.
moved there. I talked to her 6 months later, and she's living by herself, top of her like group at work, because she's used to working at a Boston mentality, not a Midwestern mentality. So she's like amazing. She's living by herself. She joined an astrological society, went on the board when she was having a hard time dealing with people. And that was
Oh,
just
wow.
6 months later. Okay. Like she was excited about connecting with people
That's
from
amazing.
someone who didn't even really know how she was going to live to like being present, excited, invested, everything in less than 6 months. Because I heard from her 6 months later. It might have happened like in 2 months or 3 months. I have no idea. All
Right.
I can tell you is that we were working together and I was trying to pull information of what support I can give her. And my support I can give her was, you've healed everything.
Mm.
You're healed. You're better. You don't need the support of me and what I do right now. Like there's nothing I can add to the work you're already doing. And you're doing such great work and you're such a great place. But I was able to tell her, but you need to honor that you did this work, that you got to this place, that you're living in that place. Because she was still in like a guarded mode, not
Mm.
even realizing how much she accomplished. But literally, she built her life and she said she felt so weird. She didn't understand what's going on. She no longer felt like she needed to protect herself from anything.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's
From not
you
feeling safe every single
yeah.
day to not feeling like she had to protect herself from anything. Like,
That's
so that's an
incredible.
extreme example. That's an extreme example. So we're not saying everyone can immediately achieve that fast. But I do believe that most people who work with me can achieve some level of greater safety.
Yeah. I think clarity in general, which is definitely something that you are profoundly great at, offers it is such a gift. And people maybe don't even like connect those dots that it would matter that much. Cause I don't think a lot of people put a lot of thought into it. But it's incredible how much it can change. Even just you talking about the energy of a location, I was like, gosh, we think about the energy of the people or the energy of, like noise or the energy of the news or the energy of like all this stuff around us, but we don't think about the location itself really very often. That's not a normal thing for people to talk about. So that's really incredible. I mean, the first time I ever even really paid attention to it is when I went to Chiang Mai, Thailand. I was like, holy crap, I'm home. I don't even know how to explain it. It just feels good here. I
Right.
was like the first time I ever really paid that much attention to a location other than when I'm in nature. I always notice it then. Um, but yeah, that's incredible. That's amazing. I want to circle back to trailblazers. You're talking about trailblazing and like what that looks like. It's like, is that healing? I mean, the healing
That
process
is
itself
healing.
is trailblazing. I mean, it
Right.
is that you can't. I mean, I feel like trailblazing is the definition of healing as well
It can be,
on
absolutely.
some level for sure.
You know, and it definitely is for certain types of people.
Yeah.
For other types of people, it's literally just holding space. It's
Yeah.
just, I mean, honestly, I have had clients where just asking questions
Yeah.
healed them. That was
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Yep.
I didn't even need the answers. They didn't
Yeah,
even need the answers. They
right.
literally I needed to be the first person to ask them the questions.
Yeah. I've had
And that was
tarot
all they
readings like
needed.
that where I was like, what just happened? Like they'll follow up with you 2 weeks later and they'll tell you a thing. I'm like, wait, that's not what we talked about there. Yeah, I know, but something about that reading. And I was like, huh, well, that's cool. I just trust that it's all divinely guided and I'm just
Right.
here to do my thing with the help of my divine counsel. And I think I'm here for a reason and I trust that and it surprises me, but it doesn't surprise me. And I'm still in awe and wonder of all the things that can happen when we just show up authentically and with clarity. And I think it's amazing. I don't know.
And I think that is the thing, is that one thing we absolutely both share is we want people to succeed their way,
Oh,
not my way
yes,
or your
100%.
way. And we we are really clear on, I at least am very clear on, I'm not gonna speak for you. I am very clear on my way ain't gonna work for most people.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
way that I do things is not gonna work for most people.
Yeah.
And so I would never want people to show up my way unless that's really what they sure they wanted to do.
Yeah, it comes up in Reiki trainings all the time because I'm like, look, I've studied with 3 or 4 different teachers. I'm going to lay out as many tools as I possibly can for you, but your Reiki practice doesn't become your practice until you make it yours. Some of the things that work for me and I use will not work for you. You get to
Yep.
explore all these different things, and you might find another teacher that gives you another thing that is like the missing piece for you that you get to explore and find.
Right.
But it has to be your practice. If you're just following the notes of what I tell you to do, which I don't work that way anyway, but like
But yeah.
that's not it's never gonna feel like your practice. It's just like there's something about, and no matter what the practice is, I don't care if you're doing accounting. I get that there's structure there, but I'm just saying, if you like how you do it, how you show up for it, what you did before, during, and after has to be yours. And then that changes everything. And that's when it just sort of like clicks in, so to speak. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. How you feeling? Do you have anything else you want to share?
Really, I mean, again, it's similar to what I said with Grace, but like, how could you know, or how could that other person know, are really things important to think about when you're talking about information.
Say that again.
So, how could I have known this before?
Oh, yes.
And then, how could they have known this before?
To be
And
inquisitive
really
with
look
yourself, you
at,
mean?
don't answer with, well, it's common knowledge.
Yeah.
That's a cop out, inaccurate answer.
Yeah.
Okay. We're too inundated with information for, I could have had access to that information before, to be an accurate statement.
Hmm.
Okay. So I just want people to know and think about, like, give yourself and give other people grace around expectation.
Yeah.
And like, really ask yourself, am I really sure that I was taught this in a way I can receive it? Am I really sure that this person was taught the information in a way they receive information?
Hmm.
And like, give people the grace to explore and discover information they don't already know.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Okay.
So how can people find you?
I know people are uncomfortable with it, but I'm a guy, I'm a strong-minded person. So I definitely prefer call and text.
Okay.
So my phone number is 860-805-0482. Again, 860-805-0482. I'm perfectly comfortable with having my phone available online.
Nice.
I've never had any issues or challenges. I know other people have horror stories, and I totally get that.
Yeah.
But I have a very strong energy, and nothing typically seems to bother me. Of course, when you make a statement like that, it's potentially a challenge to the universe.
Let's not
So
do that.
I'm gonna possibly say that, I may have to shift some of that energy. But I want to let people know I always try and make myself available to work with clients. I have varied times throughout the day, but I also have peers that I trust, like you and other people, that I can refer out to if I don't have the space to hold the support you need. It is, I've never had a circumstance where I didn't have someone that I could message that would be readily available within a few days to
Yeah.
support the person that was looking for support. Like, it's just it. So I want people to know I not only work with clients, I help support different people that are looking to gain an understanding of what practitioners might work for them. And I'm willing to put that energy to support because I have a phenomenal community of people. And it makes me very sad when clients end up with these practitioners that have not been vetted by somebody that's severe enough.
Yeah, another reason I love you. Because I think it's important to work with the right people. And sometimes, like, I'll be talking with someone and we'll be in a conversation. All of a sudden, I'll be like, you know what? Pretty sure you're supposed to meet so and so. They do this exact thing that you're talking about. And I might be able to go there, but that's not really my skill set. So let's not waste time. Let's
Right.
move on to the different person. And yeah, I just think that's so important for people to align and be land where it's most beneficial to them. And I love that mindset of the we share the same the same
Right.
feelings on that.
Value.
Yeah, yeah, it's important.
We definitely share the same values.
Yeah.
And so like I just because like I said, I want people to succeed their way.
Yeah.
It's, I love working with clients. If you want to work with me, even after I potentially think someone's going to support you better, that's okay. But I want to be able to offer people whatever it is they're potentially looking for. And I've been in the holistic healing community in my area. So especially if you're in or around the Connecticut area and you're looking for something in person, I've got I've got a great group of people that I can recommend to you that do virtual. So it still is possible for everywhere, but I'm in Connecticut, and that's where I sort of operate my space from. So, I work with clients that come in from New York and Boston and different places. Um, but yeah, people can find me that way. They can look me up at theclearestu.com. My website's going through a transition right now, but there's usually some sort of information of a way to connect to me through that.
Perfect.
And I just do want to mention if people like what they heard, but they're not in a position to work with me directly, I do have my book, The Clearest You,
Oh,
out
nice.
through Amazon.
Nice.
And so you can look The Clearest You. You have to type in The Clearest You Adam Latin, or what happens is that Amazon changes it to Cleanest You.
Oh, that's
So you
funny.
want to make sure um that you actually type in my name also with clearest.
And you is
Um
just the letter U, not the name, not YOU,
yeah,
right?
just the letter U,
Okay.
correct. Yep. And people can connect through there. They can receive information through the book. And I recently reread it because it'd been a little while. They reduced it and there's still really good stuff. There's exercises at the
Oh,
end of every
nice.
chapter. It's really set up to support people asking questions, just like the questions that I would ask if I worked with them directly.
That's awesome. Great. Well, thank you. I appreciate you sharing time with me today. It's always a pleasure when we spend time together. I never know where we're going to go. I just know it's going to be amazing. So that I think is a wrap for today. Bye. Be you every day.